So Greg Adams is here a couple of seconds. Aaron said we have to have Greg in because he is. It's like the last scene of Heartbreak Ridge where all the Japanese officers are disemboweling themselves. I've never seen anything like it.
Let me read you his Facebook because pretend like he's not in the room.
Okay,
you ready?
Yeah.
This is earlier in the day, I guess. In the first NFL game today, they blow no whistles on anything. In the second NFL game today, they blow the whistle on every play, then try to figure it out after. This is why people hate the NFL today. There's zero consistency on the calls from game to game.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the kneeling or anything. So what did you think?
And then later he puts up on his Facebook page, Marcus Williams should never be allowed to take another snap in the NFL.
Let me set it up. When I will ask you again what I said last hour and in the 6 o'clock hour. Was Marcus Williams' lack of a tackle, was that a gaffe, an error, a screw-up on par with the Bill Buckner ground ball?
Watch your language. We have the button on? Okay.
Oh, yeah. No. Hey, let me preface by saying I'm not a Saints fan. I'm a Detroit Lions fan. We got Matt Patricia. We'll be in the Super Bowl in 3 years. I'm watching the game, and I watched all the football yesterday. And first of all, when it comes to the whistles, this has been a consistent problem all season. Dean Blandino was the head of officials in the NFL last year. They didn't have these kind of issues last year. At this point in the NFL, most fans don't know what a catch is. Most fans don't know what pass interference is. Most fans don't know what contact with a quarterback, when it will draw a flag and when it won't.
Everything is holding.
What
I mean is nobody can tell you what holding is. It depends on what the official sees or what he decides to let go. It's basically an NBA game.
It is very much an NBA game right now, which is why a lot of people have gotten away from the NBA over the last few years, is the Michael Jordan rules, where certain players drive the lane and get certain calls or lack of calls. Other players do the exact same thing, get a whistle, and send somebody to the line. That's what we see in the NFL right now, is that you watch the game early in the day, and guys were mugging each other in pass coverage. Guys were taking guys down to the ground, no flags on the field. And then you watch the game later in the day, and the same play happens where a guy maybe has his hand around a hip or maybe has a little bit of a jersey up around the shoulders, flag on the play, flag on the play. And that lack of consistency, I'm a lifelong football fan. I played football for a long time. I feel like I should know what the rules to the game are. And now when I watch the game, I have no idea what I'm watching. I can't keep up. I can't understand it. So it starts to get my interest about where my personal interest is in the game of cricket. I know nothing about cricket, so why would I watch it? I'm now learning I know nothing about NFL football, so why would I watch it?
But give Marcus a break. I mean, it was an awful error. Horrible. He knows he made a horrible, but he's a rookie. Doesn't he get a mulligan?
No. Because he's okay. If I'm a 21-year-old man and I'm at work and I drive a dump truck into the side of the building, do I just get to say I'm sorry and then we forget that I drove a truck into the side of a building? What he did last night, what he did yesterday. You know what? He's probably a fine player. He's probably a great player. He'll have a decent NFL career. He will never
in some other city.
He will never forget this particular play. And you know what? It could be Bill Buckner. This could be a defensive back's equivalent of the yips. This guy might go Chuck Knobloch and never be able to throw a baseball to first base
Steve
again.
Sachs, exactly.
Yeah, this could affect him down the line for the rest of his career because the way that it shapes up, and I'm sure that New Orleans media is being worse on him than we are. The way that it shapes up right now, if New Orleans were to win that game, you've got to play Philadelphia on a warm weekend in Philly with a backup quarterback. The path to the Super Bowl was pretty wide open.
It was a cakewalk.
All you have to do is make a tackle. And actually, he did make a tackle on his own player.
Yeah.
If he were in some way able to slow him down at all, even take the pass interference at that point. That was just, I'm watching it in awe. Again, not a Saints fan. Just watching from a football standpoint of, you have one job. You could have stopped and stood there and let him catch the ball and taken him to the ground and then leave it up to them to try. They have no timeouts. They'd have to try and run their kickoff or their field goal team out onto the field, line up and kick a field goal in less than 10 seconds.
Did you believe it? Because were you like me? I mean, I'm a Saints fan. I'm like, I can't really believe what I'm watching.
No, I don't think anybody could. There's a lot of footage of Case Keenum, the Vikings quarterback, who couldn't believe it either. He just kind of stood there frozen, and then once he realized what was starting to happen, his hands went on top of his helmet like, what did I just see? Because you will watch hundreds of football games forever from this point on, and you will never see that exact play happen
It had
again.
never happened before. We always say in sports, just like in life, if you see something awesome for the first time and you think, well, I bet this is the first time this has ever happened. No, it probably happens a lot and you just weren't paying attention. No, what you saw yesterday had never, ever happened before.
Okay, Greg, one more thing. You're Marcus Williams' dad. He's coming over for supper after the game. What does Dad tell him?
I had the spread.
You can't eat here?
No, the Saints covered the spread. And that's the interesting thing. But why you think of your answer. If you noticed, what was the final? 26-20. No, 26-21. So the Saints literally, the spread was 5.5. The Saints covered. And I've heard all this discussion about...
It was 29-24.
29. Was it really? 29-24. So the Saints covered by 5. The spread was 5.5. And then the Vikings come out, and because they have to do the extra point, it's the rule, and they just take a knee. And somebody had said, well, why don't they... I mean, I heard this on ESPN this morning. Why didn't they just kick it? Because if the kick is blocked and the Saints return it,
yes,
they get 2 points.
And that jacks up Vegas. So
what does Dad tell him?
With Marcus Williams,
remember, you love him.
Yeah, and
he's your only son.
And you would tell him basically the same thing that you want to tell if you're a coach or anybody, that this will be a defining moment in his career and in his life, and not defining by what he's already done, but the way in which he reacts to it. So he could either put his nose to the grindstone and work every single day, 365 days a year, to become a better NFL player and use this as his motivating factor, or it will destroy him from the inside out. Now, there was a guy yesterday on the field who actually reacted and responded to an issue. He was... Thomas Morstead got hurt on the opening punt, the first punt, the punter. He gets hurt and goes out and still keeps punting, and you can see him gutting through it. And he actually had some good punts to pin Minnesota down a couple of times. But the biggest thing yesterday was
kicking like he had a hernia.
Yeah. And I think what ended up happening, he's probably got a giant bruise because on that tackle, he brought the player's helmet down on his chest. And he sandwiched the helmet between his chest and the ground, I believe. So he's probably got a giant Minnesota Vikings purple bruise on him. But when they did the extra point and the Saints were nowhere to be found and they needed to bring players out, who's the first guy running out there to line up on the defensive line? It was Thomas Morstead. Thomas Morstead, the punter, who's already injured, whose team just got gutted on the field. And Thomas Morstead has been a Saint for a long time. This guy lives as a Saint. Sure. It's not like he was just signed in the offseason. He came out injured. Granted, this is not a real play. He's not going to get hit by an offensive lineman. But he's coming out there willing to
block a guy who weighs 150 pounds more than he does.
Yeah, and he comes out and man's game there. I'm not a Saints fan, but if I was ever to sport a Saints jersey, I want it to be a Morstead jersey.
Before we go to break, one last little trivia question. Name the Saints player who, as of the end of the game yesterday, doesn't have a contract.
Drew Brees.
Did we just witness his last game as a Saint?
Oh, boy.